What's up, heathens? How y'all doing? I'm the Godless Engineer, and tonight you're watching HOSTility. I believe that's how we pronounce it. It's Friday, February 23rd, 2024, and the lines are open if you would like to call in with a question or to challenge us about whether or not God is suitable for children. You can call in using 720-619-2288, or there is a web call-in option down in the description, so you can definitely go there and call in. If you're outside of the US, you need to call in from the web. I'm the Godless Engineer, and joining me today is Rebecca Vitsmun. Rebecca has recently written a book called Eliza D's Universes. Rebecca, would you like to introduce yourself, tell everybody what your book's about and everything?
Yeah, sure. Most people know me for coming out of my atheist closet on CNN after my house was destroyed by a tornado. I was the one who laughed in Wolf Blitzer's face. But, you know, my regular life is being a stay-at-home mom, and I have a degree in, humanities or arts and humanities. So I've used my degree and my experiences as a mother of, we have 5 children in the house. So I created Eliza D's Universes, which is a children's book. It features a little girl who likes to pretend to be a universe-creating pixie, and she creates lots of fantastical worlds.
Yeah, I have to say the one that really grabbed my attention, which I know I mentioned to you before, is the flying spaghetti monster universe that you have pictured in the book. That one's pretty awesome. I have read through the book, and I thought that it was a very good book. And I know that in the book you were really wanting to emphasize some like hidden disabilities that are not normally very visually depicted in children's books. Would you mind talking a little bit about that?
Yes. So whenever I was creating the character for the book, I looked online at the advice, and Google was like, write what you know. And I was like, okay, so what do I know? And then it was like, I'm autistic, and I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome and mast cell activation syndrome and postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. She's going to have all of that. Like, I was kind of like, right. But then I started to write with her, and she didn't have like the problems that I've had because she's diagnosed young. She has support. She has, however I would treat myself, right? I get to kind of reparent myself and be like, hey, she's got all this support. This is awesome. And write with her. And so the way that I did it, though, is honestly, it didn't really change the story, because the story is it's like, yes, she has all of these conditions, and here's her amazing story. And so the way that I depicted these hidden disabilities was showing what it looks like because honestly, for people who have those conditions, they could look at that story without the front matter, without being told, and be like, I think that person has the following conditions, the ones that I have, because we can see it. And I'm trying to assist others in being able to see it, because, there's a lot that goes on having EDS. We are gaslit by doctors. There's a very long and hard road. You have to be absolutely falling apart at this point to get diagnosed. But then your children are like 50% likely to have it. So a lot of us are like, okay, so that kid obviously has it and has since they were born, But at this point, the children who are finding out, or the parents who are finding out, because the criteria that caught me was only developed in 2017. That's not long ago. I've had it my entire life because it's a genetic disorder. So now we're able to be like, okay, from in utero, 50% chance, we know. And then once they're born, it doesn't take very long before it's like, that baby has EDS. So that's exciting, and I want those of us out there who have this to be seen. I want people to be like, read the book, understand what these invisible conditions are, and maybe say, hey, neighbor, you kind of have these things. Or, hey, my student kind of has these things, just to be able to give visibility to these hidden, but you can see them, conditions.
Yeah, no, and I think that that's an awesome part of the book. And if people want to check out Eliza D's universes, you can go on Amazon. You can go ahead and pre-order it. I believe it'll be available at the very beginning of next month. I believe it's April 8th, right?
April 4th.
Oh, April 4th. So definitely go check that out. I know that we've got, I believe that we've got links in the description for things. If not already, then we will definitely get those later. But we will jump to calls as soon as we get some in. All the lines are open. So if you want to talk about whether or not God is suitable for kids, and especially if you're a theist and you want to advocate for teaching about God or pushing God on children, please do call in, because we'd love to have a conversation with you. I do want to remind everybody that at the show's end, we will be taking super chat questions and reading them and interacting with them. So if you have any ideas about, whether or not God is good for children or not, be sure to check to do a super chat so that we can discuss that very strong opinion that you may have on that topic. Now, Rebecca, I'm wondering, what are your thoughts on the topic in general, like whether or not God is good for children, or is religion good for children?
So I have a lot of strong opinions on this. Whenever it comes to pushing like an ideology and saying this is reality, I cannot get behind. Or if you have very dangerous imagery for someone to hold in their brain, like hell, I cannot get behind that as either, until age appropriate. Like it's okay once you can share everything you want once somebody's age appropriate, but young children, that is traumatic. And they carry it around, and it influences how they feel about themselves as a human. And I just think that's extraordinarily dangerous. Although I do like stories. I really enjoy stories. I like metaphor. I like, I like to share all the stories of the world with children, because I actually have a couple of books that I love. And so I'll just show those. So here's one. It is called In the Beginning, Creation Stories from Around the World. I love that. I'm so excited to learn about all these different cultures and the way they saw it. But I'm not going to say that any of those are correct, because this is just like, we started by looking up at the sky and thinking it was rocks, right? We thought the stars were closer than the sun and we're made of jade and we're the bottom layer, right? Whenever we started on our flat ground and looking up at the sky, and we're like, what's that? I guess it's rocks, And then we developed other stories after that. And, as we've built on those stories, some people have got it in their head that one of them is the right one. And for me, it's stories, and I love stories, and I love thinking about the way people saw it. But I think it's extraordinarily dangerous to teach that that's the way it is now, or this like archaic way of looking at things that didn't take into account all the things that we know now is somehow relevant. I think that's extremely dangerous. So, I have one more book recommendation if you want me to share that now. I have Wendy Thomas Russell, Relax, It's Just God, How and Why to Talk to Your Kids About Religion When You Are Not Religious. And she has a lot of wonderful ideas on how secular parents can, or anyone, I don't want to say secular parents, like, why not, like, relax, it's just everybody else's God too. So like, why couldn't you read this as a religious person and just see what it says, and then teach your children cultural histories of other people? I think that helps them understand the world that we live in.
Yeah, totally. I'm wondering, there's this sort of trend going on in a lot of red states now of them allowing unrestricted access to children by priests, preachers, just religious figures in general, in lieu of actually employing counselors. So they're passing laws and legislation that would allow priests to act as counselors in schools, public schools, around the country, Texas, Florida, I believe Oklahoma. I don't know if Oklahoma or any of the other Midwestern states have done that, but there's several red states that are doing this. And I'm just kind of curious, what are your thoughts on like chaplains or other religious figures being given this unrestricted access in lieu of providing like counselors in schools?
Okay, so there's a few elements here, right? So one of the first ones is they're not trained to interact with people of many, like, let's say infinite. I'm just going to say, like, why not be trained for an infinite differences in cultural background, right? Like where counselors are like, here's how you treat a human, right? They're not taught, like, here's how you interact with somebody who believes what you believe, which is the training that these chaplains or individualized religion, individualized culture people are receiving prior to being exposed to every single cultural narratives that is in the room or that they interact with. And I just don't find that to be an appropriate place, like maybe inside of your own people, or like maybe if it was like, everyone is allowed to have their own representation of counseling here, like somehow or something like that. Because now just the privileged, chosen, correct few get the appropriate treatment. I'm not going to say that a priest can't necessarily treat somebody with dignity and respect, but there's an underlying, I represent one culture that I find to be dangerous now you need to interact on this deep and personal level with every culture. I think that's dangerous.
Yeah, no, totally. And I mean, with, the amount of school violence that we're seeing and, all the different issues that kids usually go through. I know, I believe it was recently on the show, somebody talked about how, that these chaplains are given like apps on their phone about how to pray with children about their suicidal thoughts. And I can't believe like how much trauma that would impose on a child for them to seek help and then just be told, oh, well, here, let's pray to God about it. Like, I kind of feel like that's really not actually addressing the issue, and it can just do more harm, depending on how that person prays with the child. So yeah, did you have any other thoughts?
Yeah, I do. So my home was destroyed in that tornado, and there were women who were there from a church to help me. And then they said something about God or something. And I said I didn't go to church. I didn't drop an A-bomb on the ladies that time, right? I didn't declare myself atheist to these people that it didn't seem safe. And then they're like, you're raising this baby without Jesus. And it's like, I do not need you here. I don't, I'm an adult, luckily. But the moment that they're like attacking my parenting while I just had my house destroyed and they're going through my baby's personal items, it's just like, get out of my house. But I didn't, because I needed their help, and I felt trapped in that scenario, and it was not a positive experience for me. And I can only imagine what it'd be for like a confused child in need to have somebody come and it's using, right? You're using their trauma to sell your product. That's heartbreaking, because it should be about really that individual, right? It should be like supporting them, doing it their way. What's your cultural narrative? If that chaplain was taught not how to pray, but how to talk to the person about what they need and then provide what they need instead of pushing, like you're going to push somebody who's just gone through trauma? That makes no sense.
No, I totally agree with you. I mean, growing up, I was religious, and I recognize now, like, the signs of clinical depression that I was suffering through, like, even as a teenager. And at the time, I was pretty religious. I would go in and out of being devoutly religious even. And that really only seemed to exacerbate the problems that I had. And it took me to some dark places, and the religious part really only helped cover it up. This might sound like a gross analogy, but do you, have you ever seen the movie Big Daddy with Adam Sandler?
Yes.
Yeah. So there's a part in it where the kid is like hyperactive because he's got all the sugar in him. He's jumping around and then he vomits on the floor. And Adam Sandler goes in and he spreads paper over it, just to cover it. The analogy that I make is that, like, in that scene, your issues, like, for me, clinical depression is the vomit on the floor. And what religion does is it comes in as the Adam Sandler covers it up with newspaper, and it really just sort of masks the problems. It doesn't actually deal with the problems. Like, it masks it, and then it's just going to fester and get worse later, and it can cause a lot of problems later. And that's what I suffered through. And so that I definitely feel like religion in the aspect of, like, mental health, as far as, not saying that religious people are mentally unwell necessarily. I'm saying that religion itself can help cover up these issues that people are dealing with, and that only allows those issues to fester and get worse and potentially become unsafe. And so that's one concern I have with, like, God and children, and putting, like, priests or preachers in schools, and have them deal with those things when they're not actually trained to deal with those things, because they can exacerbate the situation, or they can give them skills to cover it up so that it only gets worse and ends up becoming an unsafe situation later. We do have a couple of calls already lined up. Both of them are theists too, so we're hitting 2 for 2 tonight. Are you ready to get to calls?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, well, the first is Andrew from Florida. What's up there, Andrew? I'm so sorry you're from Florida. I mean, I just personally don't like Florida in general. Like, the government, like, DeSantis sucks. I'm just saying.
Can I hear? Audio problem? Audio problem? Hello?
Is Andrew talking?
Hello?
He's saying hello, audio problem.
Oh, I can't hear him if he's talking.
Okay, so maybe next caller, and hopefully Andrew can call back.
Maybe. Yeah, let's Andrew, I'm going to return you to the queue for right now. I don't know if you're talking. Oh, Andrew dropped, apparently. Okay, he's calling back in. Let's take John from New York now. Let's try John. What's up there, John? How
Hello?
you doing?
Hello?
Hi, John. Can you hear me?
Hello?
No.
No.
Hello?
Okay, so you're not hearing John either?
I can hear John.
Hello?
He's saying hello.
Oh, you can.
Hello.
Oh, okay. Okay, I got it now. It's coming through.
Hello?
John, are you there?
Oh.
Hello?
I don't think he can hear us, though.
Oh, okay. Maybe he can't hear us. John, can you hear us?
Yeah. Hello?
Hey.
Hello?
Saying hello. Hello.
Oh, okay. I can hear you.
I got it now. It's coming through.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Hello.
I'm here, but I can't hear you. I can see. I'm watching you on.
I don't think he can hear us, though.
Hello?
I hear hello.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello. This is the Hello Show.
I'm listening.
Are you listening via the show on YouTube, or are you hearing us actually through your ear?
I'm here, but I can't hear you. I can see. I'm watching you on.
I don't hear us, though.
So
There's a
John, we
delay.
hear your background video.
Here, hello.
Can you turn your background video off?
Hello? Wait, don't give up. I'm trying to. Hello?
Okay.
Maybe if
Hello?
the next time, instead of saying hello, you could ask a question or just talk.
Background video off. I don't think that we're actually being piped to John.
I can see you on my tablet, but I can't hear you on my phone. So I don't know if it's my phone or not.
Okay.
Well, yeah, that's a good idea.
your
Why didn't I think of that? I'm trying to make a rational case for God, and I'm saying that basically so physics, if we look at the simplicity of how the physical universe is set up, I don't think that actually being my tablet, I can't hear you on my phone. I don't know if it's my phone. Okay.
This is a little painful.
I'm trying to say,
I believe our producer Morgan is working on it. So
so physics, if we look at
okay, John, if you're listening right now via the show, I'm going to return you to the queue until we can get this worked out, because this is a little painful right now. Okay, so we're having some technical difficulties with GE. So we got John that's still in the queue there. And we got our producer working on the sound. So just let me know whenever we need to test another call there. And we can definitely do that, because we've got theists coming in one right after another. I know Andrew keeps trying to call back in and get in here. So while we're waiting on the producer to get stuff set up appropriately, so another thing that recently came up as far as God and children goes is there was actually a YouTuber that got arrested this week because of how they were imposing their religious beliefs on their children, which it included basically torturing their children. And they thought that they were doing it, for the good of the children, because that's what God has told them to do. And this isn't the first time that this has happened. Rebecca, what do you think about, parents out there that are using, their religion in these kind of dangerous ways? And then, kind of contrast that with, of course, there are religious people out there that don't do these things and they push their religion on their children. Like, there's a stark difference between the two. What are your thoughts on that particular topic?
Okay. So, were you talking about Ruby? Is that Ruby Frankie that you were mentioning? Who was sentenced
I think so.
this
I
think
think Ruby.
Okay, I
she
followed
was
that
sentenced
case
this week.
very strongly. So I have a lot of opinions there. So there's a few things that go on here. So specifically for Ruby Frankie, but this applies kind of broadly. And so I'm going to use her as an example, but this is something that happens. There's a pattern of behavior that's associated with people who end up taking things to this measure, right? Through various different types of psychological or personality, or there's a lot of ways in which it happens, but it has a certain type of pattern. And one of them is this belief in a perfection, right? Whenever she was making her YouTube videos, there's like this air of perfection. It's perfect. She's perfect. They're perfect. The children are perfect. They have the perfect religion and they believe the perfect thing, right? They're living this perfect life. And as soon as you introduce the idea that perfect is possible into a human being, you already have a problem, because humans aren't perfect. Like, find me a human being that's perfect. Like, I'll show you somebody who's wrong, right? And probably has significant amounts of problems that come out in a certain type of pattern of trying to control others, trying to control what they think, what they believe, who they are, how they act, right? And that kind of pathological imposition of perfection onto children is significantly dangerous, and can lead to these kinds of stories, especially the more that somebody is trying to go towards perfection, because that will already start this, like, control battle over a human being a human being. And you're not going to have children that aren't human. She already had children that were human. So the moment that you're like, my children have to be perfect, or my children are perfect, then there's a problem. Because how do you grow? Where's the growth? How can you grow? You can't grow, right? Because you're already perfect. So there's nothing wrong. Even though you're a human being, you're going to be growing every single day of your life forever, right? Because you got to roll with every punch, right? You have this happen, you got to handle it. You got this happen, you got to handle it. But this type of perfection is like, just deflect. It's deflect every single thing. Like, oh, problem? Nah, right? And this blame deflection pattern of behavior is the stuff that leads to people committing crimes. I mean, honestly, it's very highly associated once you get to a certain level of pathology around perfection. So I think that a lot of people with a religion thinking that there's one and it's the perfect one is a breeding ground for problems. It's just like, how are you going to introduce perfection, and that you can live perfectly without introducing, like, okay, now there's a problem, like, right? Because we're not perfect, we're human. So,
right, yeah, and I definitely had some of that when I was.
John.
Oh,
can you hear me? I can't hear you.
I can hear you.
No.
But you can't hear me now.
No, I can't hear you. Maybe in the course of trying to make it so we could hear the callers, lost the ability to hear you. And I kind of wonder if other people can hear you, because I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I can't hear, can the producer talk to me? Hello?
Give it a minute.
Okay. Could you hear the producer? Sorry. We're supposed to be giving it just a minute. So I guess I can talk until Rebecca can hear me.
It sounds like I knocked something over, and my partner is going to fix perhaps my own stuff.
Okay.
Is it my headphones? I don't know.
Hello? I feel like a Verizon commercial. Can you hear me now? How about now?
Maybe it's the headphones. No. There it is. Ha! I found it.
Oh,
what's this? Hello?
Hello?
Yay!
Yay! Okay. All right. Awesome.
Let's. When did I go out? You probably can hear me the whole time because my microphone and my headphones are not connected. Okay, great. Sorry.
Yeah.
I pulled my own cord out.
All right, so we're gonna try Andrew again, and we're gonna try to take a call real quick. So we got Andrew coming online. Hey, Andrew, can you hear us?
Yes, this time I can.
Okay, awesome. We got him. Andrew's on the line. What's up, Andrew? I'm so sorry you're from Florida.
Oh, I love it.
Okay. We all have wrong opinions.
But that's not the topic. That's not the topic of tonight, though.
All right. So what do you got for us there, Andrew?
Yeah, and I have a humanistic argument for religion.
Hit us with it.
Goes like this: if it wasn't more useful to us than not, if it wasn't more beneficial than harmful, it wouldn't have lasted so long, for tens of thousands of years. So it's helped us in many, many ways in our evolution, in our growth as a species.
Okay, hold on. Andrew. So let me stop you right there. Can you provide any concrete examples of how religion has like helped society along? Like I could think of a few, but I'd love to hear what you think are religion's positive contributions to like human history and things.
Terror management. So we had no idea what thunder was and what happens to us when we die. So it helps us with terror management and the loss of our loved ones.
Terror. Okay. Terror management. Sorry, you go ahead, Rebecca.
Oh, no, I was just clarifying that he had said terror management.
Right.
But I can respond.
Oh yeah, definitely. Go ahead.
Okay. So, it would be easy for me to argue that it has caused way more terror than it has managed, especially with the concept of hell being introduced to children. I have not met a human being who was like, that's puppies, kittens, and rainbows. Like, what? Like, so how many beings on the planet have been terrorized by it versus how many people have been not terrorized by it? Looks like terror. I'm sorry, that's like all encompassing terror. As far as like person to person.
Yeah, that's only a minority. So the majority of religions throughout history do not believe in hell or an afterlife. And those who do believe in hell, the vast majority of people don't even think they're going there. They either think that they're too good to go to hell, they're not going to get judged like that, or they don't believe
no, I have to push back on this real quick. Hold on, Andrew, hold on. Okay, you go ahead. You go first, Rebecca.
Okay, sure. So, couple of things here. Earlier, I was speaking about how I actually like stories. I like to introduce them. I like metaphors. I wouldn't say that I wanted people introduced to all of the religions and all of the stories, if, age appropriately, obviously, if I didn't find value in sharing those stories or gaining something from history or all of those different things, right? Or, even just questioning them, like, was that actually a good story? Probably not. Like what bad things came from that story, right? Learning from it. So I don't actually have a problem with the sharing. I have a problem whenever you say this single religion is the perfect religion and we're going to judge everybody by it. Like, that's where it comes in. Or, hey, hell's real. Like there's a lot of things that come with it that I think let's just move forward and call them stories. Let's question those stories and pick out which things are like, yeah, that was cool, or like, no, that was horrific, right? And move forward with these stories and how they, what was gained, what was lost, etc. Learn from them, make more stories. What? Right? Like that's where I'm at.
And as far as the terror management thing goes, like when I was a Christian, I mean, the whole terror aspect of, and like the hell aspect that Rebecca was talking about, like that only helped like deepen like my clinical depression. It helped with a lot of negative self-talk that I learned to put myself through. So, I mean, it had a lot of negative effects on me, and that was, and it wasn't because like, I wasn't the type of person to think, oh, I'm too good to go to hell. I thought literally everything I did that I perceived to be like, I guess against God's will or not what God wanted, I thought I was literally going to get sent to hell for it. And so like I was not in constant terror as a kid, but there were times where I was terrified of going to hell for some of the most mundane things. And that only like worsened when I was going through puberty. So I mean, I feel like this whole terror management thing doesn't make a lot of sense. And another way that it doesn't make sense is that one of the crucial aspects to like a survival instinct, especially when we look at how organisms survive and everything so that they can procreate and just live in general, is like a reasonable sense of like death. If your religion removes that terror or manages that terror of death, making death not so bad, how is that advantageous? Like if I do something or I convince you that if you die, that's no big deal. Like that's not a big thing. You're, as Frank Turk would say, you're just changing locations. How is that advantageous to the human species? Sorry, go ahead, Rebecca.
Well, I said, sorry, it's okay. I lost it anyway.
Okay.
It was just,
sorry, go ahead, Andrew. Yeah. Oh.
Andrew?
My turn?
Yeah, go for it.
Hello? Oh, okay. Yeah, it comes with baggage. And I agree, religion can be very toxic. It comes with baggage. That's just the worst element, like the radicalism and fundamentalism. But most religious people are not radical nor fundamentalist because religion adapts and progresses with modern times. It's constantly getting better. The stories are getting better. It always modernizes and becomes more liberal as humanity progresses. Like, ask any Catholic if they believe unbaptized babies go to hell, and the vast majority of priests would say no. So
okay. Really, well, hold on.
People have extreme ideals.
You have to, Andrew. You do have to agree that religion is drugged by the progression of society, kicking and screaming, right? Like, I mean, look, I live in Alabama. We're regressing in society here in Alabama. I mean, right now, you can't even perform the standard care for IVF because the providers, believe because of the Supreme Court ruling, they will be charged with murder for giving standard IVF care. That's a regression in society. That and the decision on that is purely theological. The Supreme Court justice that wrote the positive opinion about the decision, only listed theological reasons in order to basically prevent IVF care as well as other forms of care in this area from being performed, because they have this weird sense of when somebody becomes a person, and it's all because, but my God says, like that. I mean, you could reduce the opinion down to, well, my Bible says this, so therefore it is that. And well, I guess I just don't see the positive nature in that. Go ahead, Rebecca.
Also, like, okay, so you mentioned Catholicism. You mentioned that it can grow and change. I was raised Catholic. And I understand how my family views the world. And honestly, they're really awesome people, right? And also, like, it's still a single, like, myopic view. They don't have a very broad understanding of other people, and that gets in the way with their abilities. I'm looking for something that's a little bit more comprehensive. I want larger amounts of growth than just minorly change something archaic. I don't think that we need to be minorly changing archaic things. I think we need to be working in the present moment that we're in. And I find it very difficult if we're still, peddling archaic stories, talking about the real, confusing people. Honestly, it's just at a point of being extraordinarily confusing. Like, how is that something upon which to build a society? That makes no sense to me.
Okay. There are some good points there. I guess we start with the first one. That court case about the IVF. That bad court decisions, that's ideological. Like Cuba, communist Cuba was a secular society, and they made many awful court decisions based on their ideology because they were trying to push it. And so that's in religion and that's out of religion. That's a human problem, not a religious problem. People try to shove their ideology into other people's lives, and we share the public square. So religious ideas that are good can make it to the public
I would agree.
I
would agree, but I think that just points away from the effectiveness of religion. I mean,
you just compared religion to Cuba. Like, did you hear yourself do that? Because that's what I heard.
Yeah, it's an ideology. It can be good or bad. It's depending on who has it, who's using it, who changes it.
It sounds like you're saying that it's a bad ideology. I'm sorry. It's just, like I said, I think you're making the case for why it's not an effective ideology and that we should do better as people. Like, let's not do what Cuba did either, right? That's obviously an example of something that went wrong, right?
Yeah, and it had nothing to do with religion. People go wrong all the time in secular societies and religious societies.
Yeah,
right, and we're
goes wrong.
Right. We're pointing out to you how it doesn't seem like religion offers anything. Like you're literally comparing it to this other situation. This, I guess, what you would say is secular situation, where religion's not a factor, but then religion is a factor, and you get the exact same result. So where's the net positive that religion brings?
Religion is like technology. You can use it for good or you can use it for bad. It has its benefits with emotional regulation, or else it wouldn't have lasted for tens of thousands of years and to this very day. It benefits people's lives.
Let me give one example. Hold on. No, this is a bit wrong-headed here, because the entire reason why religion, like any one specific religion, has continued in the minds of people or in popularity is not because of its ability to manage emotions or manage terror, like mentioned before. Sorry, go ahead, Rebecca.
I have something here as far as emotional regulation and religion, because prayer, right? Sitting around and thinking about your life helps, right? If I'm going to sit down and I'm going to be like, oh, I really got to figure this out. Let me think about it. I'm going to sit and think about it, right? That, like if I was telling myself I'm bouncing it off of God, whatever, I'm still sitting and thinking about it, right? And that practice of sitting and thinking about things helps you navigate your life. That has nothing to do with the belief. And that belief comes with a whole lot of stuff that's not just thinking about your life, because I'm all for thinking about your life. But the rest of it is extraordinarily dangerous. So like that whole emotional regulation thing, like you can do practices that do that without the extraordinarily terrible garbage that comes along with it.
That's like saying public school is bad because like it comes with a bunch of garbage and baggage. Like because there's bad teachers, there's
garbage and baggage
rampant among these schools. Like there's a bunch of teachers who have opportunities to engage in sexual relations with children, and so you're not going to throw away public education and saying, "Oh, this is bad."
Do you really want to go that route? Do you want to go that route? Because again, you're showing how religion does not offer anything. It doesn't offer any further protections. It doesn't prevent people. I mean, all you have to do is look at not only the investigations into the Catholic Church and the several parishes around the world that have pedophile like rings and have been the subject of sexual assault lawsuits against them. But you can also look at the Southern Baptist Convention. They also did a study where it also showed that even in independently teaching like Baptist churches, they all are part of this kind of thought process right here. So, I mean, maybe you're right about public school, and there being some issues with public school, that we do have ways of resolving those issues in school. Like there are laws that are governing them and everything like that. Religion also has those problems too. So you're still not actually being able to distinguish what's the net positive here, other than like in religion, I guess you can more easily hide pedophiles. You can more easily hide sexual assault. You can use God as a shield, and it's easier to use God as a shield in order to protect yourself from the repercussions of law enforcement, from your community, and all that. You don't have that in a public school. For the most part. I'm not saying that can't exist. I'm just saying for the most part, it would be a lot harder for you to accomplish that as like a teacher at the local middle school than like the priest at your local church or the pastor, like the youth pastor or whatever. You would have a much easier time in church, like hiding your pedophilic activities than, at a public school.
And I'd like to add, earlier I was speaking about patterns of behavior, how frequently this pulling in perfection, right? You're more likely to have people who struggle with both trying to control things and perfection in these environments where you're saying there's just one religion, right? And so you're going to have a higher incidence of, issues with like, because you're seeking out and pulling in these people who are attracted to that type of pattern, right? And so it makes the place more dangerous necessarily.
But that type of baggage can be found in like relationships too, like in narcissistic relationships. But you wouldn't throw out romance. You wouldn't say, "Oh, romance is bad," because it has all this baggage of emotions, and people can get attracted too much to someone, and they'll think they're perfect. We still believe in romance, and we still believe in public education. So we have all these human institutions that we still use for our benefit, but
you're not making a case
the same baggage as religion.
For religion. Like, you keep not making a case. Like, am I missing that, John? Like, because
no, you're right on the money here.
Well,
you're not distinguishing religion as being a better. Well, no, you started off by saying that you can make a case that religion offers some kind of net positive or something, that is positive for society or for people in general. But it seems like you keep bringing up examples and you keep making arguments that show that religion offers nothing like that would add to, like, you're not making a positive case that religion is better for us. You're making the case that religion is no different than nothing at all, or not nothing at all, but more secular ways of resolving whatever these issues are. You're just showing that, oh, this is no different than these other methods.
Okay, let me try to make a case then, instead of just responding to the rebuttals. I'll do my best. Stephen Asma, he's an agnostic. He wrote a book, Why We Need Religion. And he gives the case that psychologically, it helps people regulate the limbic system better than anything else. And from my experience, I was a prison chaplain for about 5 years, and I gave these prisoners such a comfort, such a relief in their tragedy. Like, many of them were facing the death penalty, and only religion could do that for them. Nothing could do that to them. Their families weren't visiting them, and they just have a sense of peace because I was coming in and bringing God and the Bible to them. And so it does certain things that nothing can, in terms of funerals, baptisms, weddings, and people facing severe tragedy. Someone's about to face the death penalty. What do you tell them? Oh, nothing's going to happen, okay? Or you give them comfort through whatever faith background they have. And so it does certain psychological things that nothing else can. That's my main argument.
So I covered this earlier when I was talking about when my house was destroyed by a tornado. People came in and they were pushing their beliefs on me, right? And so, like I said before, whenever you're helping somebody, you don't take that opportunity to try to sell your message. You ask them what they need. Now, let's say they're a believer and that's what they need. You give them that. But you don't push that on everybody. Like, the results he's getting were based on he was meeting them where they were at, right? That's not push everything on everybody around you. That's not like the message is good for everyone. It's that message was good for that person, right? And so you have to figure out what's that person? Who's that person? What are their needs? And then meet them where they're at, right? Especially in times of trauma. And so this person was making a case for meeting people where they were at. And that's where those people, whoever it was that were his sample, were at. And that doesn't apply broadly. Like, okay, so yeah, I'm cool with meeting people where they're at. That's a big part of how I, interact with in the entire world.
Well, and I would also say,
and I think teaching that too is important,
religion.
Right? Teaching people to meet people where they're at.
I didn't push one. Oh,
right.
I never pushed one religion. That's against my training as a chaplain. You just offer them support with the help of religion, or the lack of religion. That's what chaplains do. They're specialists in religion.
So I'm kind of curious. I'm kind of curious here. How did you not push a certain religion, but you guided them like with God? And you said the Bible, right? Like you specifically said, I brought the Bible in.
Yeah, the Bible contains multiple different beliefs, contradictory even. It's just people chose
but you understand. No, hold on. You I can't let you go on this. You said that you don't push a specific religion, but then you bring up the Bible. That is pushing a specific religion, is it not? Like you're pushing a specific belief.
No, it's just a tool. It's just a tool to help people. Of
one religion that teaches that you have to believe in that religion's God. Like I agree, it is a tool to use, but it's only a tool to use to tell people to believe in my God or you're going to burn in hell forever. Like that's what the Bible says.
I think one of my problems with it is that, yeah, if you want to use it as a tool, cool, and use other tools, right, that are not from just the one single background, especially whenever you're, interacting with the general public, right? To just focus in on this one book from this one group seems like it's not effective in coping with living on this planet with all of the people who are on it. I'm fine with somebody who's using the Bible and says like, here's a passage and this is what I got out of it. And that helps me in my daily life. That sounds cool. I'm like, cool. Like, that's cool. You got some book. It's got like a phrase in it. That was cool. That book is problematic on a lot of levels, but okay, you got something out of that phrase and you can share that phrase and that helps other people because you know that phrase. What happens whenever you learn a lot of phrases, Like what happens whenever you pull in all these other religions, all these other phrases and see what happens? What if you pull in things that are scientific and all this other stuff and then see what happens? I just think that it's a more broad ability to assist people if you have a broader scope and it isn't so extraordinarily narrow with a perfection, component to it of like, this is the book, right? And so I'm cool with like people liking Bible phrases or whatever. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry for interrupting.
That's okay.
It's not as dogmatic as you guys are making it sound. Like there's different beliefs of the afterlife within the Bible. Some books say that nothing happens. Some books say it's heaven. Some books say it's the place of the dead. Like there's different beliefs in the Bible.
How many gods are in the Bible?
It doesn't support one religion.
No, it definitely does support one religion. It's the Bible. How many gods are in the Bible that are proclaimed to be the one true God?
At least dozens.
No. There's in the Bible there.
Can you name them and tell us some stories? I want to be educated at this point. Can you tell me about those? I want to know. That sounds exciting.
Well, Yahweh's the war god of ancient Israel. That's very different than the God of the New Testament. It's very different than Asherah, the other gods that are mentioned. It's very different than the gods of Elijah, and very different than the gods of the Pharaoh. And the gods of the Romans.
So you're polytheistic.
There's a variety. The idols that Paul mentions. Yeah.
No, I'm.
I guess we do with the topic.
No, well, Andrew. Well, yes, I got off course because you're just. I don't want to say that you're lying about the Bible, but the way that you're twisting the Bible is just not accurate to what's literally in the book, and I can't move past that. But also, we've been on the
I kind
call
of
for
want
about
like a
20
show
minutes
of
now.
hands from Christians. Like show of hands from Christians. How many gods are in the Bible? Like, that's interesting.
Well, so there is a bit of a nuance difference here because in the Old Testament, it does mention that there are other gods like Baal, Molech, and all these other gods. But what I was specifically asking was how many gods in the Bible espouse to be the one true God that is the God to be worshipped is kind of what I was getting at. So I don't know if maybe I didn't communicate clearly. Is that what you understand, Andrew, that I was asking was which God in the Bible is the one true ultimate God that you should worship?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, for the most part, most of them point to one, their interpretation of that one God. But I guess to clarify that, they all view him differently. They have very different ideas of what that one ultimate God is. So I think it's still as diverse as polytheism. I think that's very well supported by the research into the Bible.
I think that you can cherry pick different aspects of the God in the Bible. Go ahead.
You're still talking about one religion, even if you're talking about the many gods that are in the Bible. What about the many gods that are in all of the other religions and cultural backgrounds that you aren't like learning about, and you're focused in on this single book? Like you haven't gotten past the whole part about the single culture, single book, right? And training yourself in multiple cultural backgrounds.
It wasn't written in a single culture. There were various cultures that adopted it throughout. And in the New Testament, it's a combination of Greek and paganism.
An entire culture uses. It is one book that an entire culture uses to define their culture, and you're aware of that. So, like, are you not aware of that? Because there's one book. It's the book used to define an entire culture on this planet. And I'm saying learn other cultures, learn other books, use those two. That'll help you communicate with humans. Okay? That's what I'm saying.
I agree with that. I agree with that. Yeah.
Slay!
Absolutely.
All right. Well, maybe we can end on that positive note of us agreeing on something. Andrew, I really appreciate you calling in. We do have plenty of other callers to get to, so I can't wait to talk to you again next time.
All right. It was a pleasure. Have a good night, both of you.
Yeah, you too.
See you later, Andrew. All right. So before we take up our next call, I do want to mention that we do have a Patreon. If you want to, please go to patreon.com/call the line to become a patron and help us keep doing these shows. We really appreciate all those that have already signed up on Patreon. But if you're not signed up and you want to help support the show, please check out patreon.com/call the line. Also, we've got a lot of great shows coming up this week. We don't have all of the guests exactly filled out in our schedule sheet, but we do have like the normal Sunday show, SkepTalk. We may be having something on Tuesday. And then of course we've got Matt on the Hang Up, and then Takis next week. So we've got great shows that are coming out the entire week this week. So definitely check us out this coming week for all the great shows. And don't forget to send in those super chats. We've got a lot of great super chats already coming in. We'd love to hear your thoughts on whether or not God is good for children, or any of the comments that you might have about any of the callers that we take tonight. So please do super chat those in, and we'd really appreciate it. Now, Rebecca, are you ready to go on to our next call?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Next up, we've got Patrick from South Carolina. All right. Hey there, Patrick. How you doing?
Hey, good. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, because we were having problems last time I called. So, well, like I wanted to talk about like growing up in a family that owns a church. to an adult that is now deconstructing.
Okay.
Yeah. So like, just a little bit of background. I grew up as a kid that grew up in the church. My family like owns the church. My grandpa started it, and then and I was just this. I grew up in it. I wasn't like super I wasn't a massive I was a Christian, but I wasn't like kind of like I didn't really pay too much attention, or I didn't really pay too like it was kind of like I believed, but also other stuff that was like, for example, when it came to like dinosaurs, like dinosaur extinction and stuff like that, I would just kind of suppress those kind of things. I would just like, and I would I would kind of I wasn't really thinking about the Bible and those things like conflicting with each other, and so I didn't really like think about them. I thought of them like kind of somehow working, but I didn't really think too much about it, basically. And I feel like the faith was kind of keeping me from critically thinking for a long time. And now, as an adult, now that I'm deconstructing, it kind of I'm just like, wow, how did this like happen to me? Like, how could I like go so long without thinking critically like about this?
Okay, yeah. I mean, I totally feel you on this. I know that I compartmentalized a lot when I was a Christian, and then when I started to deconstruct, a lot of those walls started to come down, and I was left feeling like, why didn't I think of this before? So at what point are you right now in your deconstruction? Like, do you still believe in God, or have you lost your faith? Well, what does it look like for you?
Well, like I still believe in God, but at the same time, I'm my faith it's like, I would say it's kind of it's like I think it's hard to explain, but it's like I feel it's still like present, but at the same time, like my logic is like, this can't work. It just doesn't work. Like it's not a reliable way for figuring out truth. It's not, because it can be wrong. It's just it's not like I can't use faith as a tool to truth. So I mean, but like for some reason, like my like within me, I kind of feel like you kind of feel that it is still like you have hope, kind of.
Okay. So are you saying that hope is what keeps you believing in God, or like maybe you could encapsulate like what keeps you hanging on to a belief in God, essentially at this point?
I've been trying to figure that out. I think it's primarily I don't know. Like right now, I've basically I found out because I like all my life I haven't really read the Bible myself. So but now I'm reading it a little bit, and like I've been watching like The Line and like the atheist experience, and I've learned new things about the Bible. I had no idea, and like all the terrible things. So I know how bad like God is, but what I'm really searching for is like if he's real. Like, so if I do I guess that's kind of keeping me is that I don't really know how what I'm trying to figure out like sources or anything that will show show me like the history or like things that will verify or will tell me if it's God is real enough.
Right. I guess. Rebecca, do you have any thoughts so far?
I'm autistic, which results in my brain sometimes like spitting out sentences that relate to things that people are talking, and my brain spit out, "You cannot solve for hard solipsism. You cannot prove you are not a brain in a vat. But that's not going to govern the way that you exist." And I kind of feel like the direction you're going on, is there a God or isn't there a God? You're trying to solve the "am I a brain in a vat" argument. And for me, I just don't. I mean, I'm going to use maybe Bayesian probability. What are the odds that I am a brain in a vat and not just this like bag of mostly water hurling around on a space rock like it looks like? I think it's probably that one. So that's the direction I go.
Yeah, as far as like what?
Say that one more time.
Coincidentally, I'm autistic too, so that really yeah, so that kind of related to me.
Well, I'm kind of curious if you could maybe boil it down to a single argument or maybe a one or two sentences as to what is the most compelling reason to believe in God for you. I know that you're trying to search and find out like whether or not God does exist, but I'm kind of curious if there's anything that you find particularly compelling.
Man. I haven't really thought about that a lot. Because a lot of the arguments I've thought of, like I've heard on the line in the atheist experience, and I haven't really and they've all like kind of like fallen apart. Like mostly I'm just trying to figure out, and Rebecca, she made a good point that that I'm basically kind of searching for if I am a brain in a vat or something. Like I can't really prove that myself, so it's kind of it's kind of fruitless, basically.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, I think it working with the brain in the vat kind of idea here. If there's no compelling reason to believe that you're a brain in a vat, should you continue to believe that that's a thing? So that's how I see it. Like when it came to God for me, it's I can't think of a compelling reason, so I simply don't believe anymore. Like I don't have a compelling reason to believe this thing, so therefore I don't believe it anymore. Do you feel like you're kind of at that point, like that inflection point of having to, make a decision as to whether or not you still continue to believe?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, I definitely. Oh, go ahead.
And yeah, I can, I've noticed that ever since I started deconstructing, it's been very difficult. Since all my life I've literally believed in this. That like it's harder. It's really hard to talk about Christianity with my family, like or any like I try. I actively try to avoid the situation.
Oh yeah, I know that can be incredibly difficult. I know my family has a pretty strict policy on not discussing religion or beliefs in that kind of way, because otherwise people get, you know, angry pretty quick once you start discussing that kind of thing. So I can imagine how it would be particularly difficult. But I'm going to let Rebecca say any kind of thoughts that she might have. But the thing that I would probably suggest is, for one thing, I'm really glad that you're sitting there and thinking your way through like what you believe, why you believe it, and all that kind of stuff, reevaluating things that you've always been taught. And I think that's awesome. And I think that if I were in your position, I would probably spend some time thinking about the reasons why I should believe in this thing, whether that be God or any other kind of topic. Think about the reasons and have some reasons as to why you're continuing to believe in those things, and then really examine those reasons as to whether or not those are good reasons or not. Any final thoughts there, Rebecca?
Yes, definitely. So with your family, what I hear when you're speaking is that like essentially you're masking around them, right? Because you're people pleasing, you're worried about them, you're worried about how they'll feel if you talk, you know. There's a lot of negative consequences from masking. I don't know if you spent some time looking at masking and unmasking and stuff like that, but I think that line could be like a helpful one in learning how to cope with not sharing the same opinions with people and being okay with that. And just, you know, you can't control how they are and they can't control how you are, and that's okay. You know, you can have conversations and be respectful or whatever, and also like be yourself, because the more time that you would spend around someone where you have to mask to be around them, there's like a wall that's being built between you and that person, right? And it's a distancing. And as autistic people, like the further and further and further away that we push ourselves away as something that we can work to heal within ourselves. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because I felt like it's been very difficult to like it feels like it's gotten like every day, anytime like I'm always kind of and at this point I'm really I haven't told them anything like that I've been deconstructing. So I mean, like I've just been trying to hide everything that when it comes to that. So I feel like it gets really like harder and harder and harder to try to hide it and try to and I'm like just fearing for that day that I'll be forced in a situation where I have to talk about it.
There is a book that I would love to recommend. Hi, I'm an Atheist. That's by David McAfee. And it could help you because there's a lot of content in there in how to come forward with it. And I think that could help you. Or there's also Mom, Dad, I'm an Atheist, same author. So I think even I haven't read that one, but it just popped in there. It's like, because I know Hi, I'm an Atheist, but Mom, Dad, I'm an Atheist. That could help you, you know, build up to it. It took me, I don't know, I was 19 whenever I became an atheist. My parents found out when I went viral when I was like 29 or something, right? Like I had more than a decade. It took me. But there are resources now. And, you know, like even this show, like that wasn't available back then to help facilitate that, get things moving, get things growing again, because you want to grow together with your family, and you're going to have to go through the truth to get there, right? Through your personal truth, like being able to talk to them about yourself and who you are and what you think, to be able to get to the point where you're growing as a family.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. And if you need to talk to anybody or, bounce ideas off of anybody, I have a Facebook page that you can message the inbox and we can talk to you, help you think some things out or whatever, if you want to, or just, interact with people in the community, in various groups or whatnot. But I mean, I have to say, David McAfee is a really great author, and he's got a lot of great things to help people deal with these types of issues. So definitely check out those books. Oh, and in the chat, the line is suggesting recoveringfromreligion.org. That's a really great organization, especially if you're deconstructing and you're coming out and everything like that. So Recovering from Religion is a really good place to tap into as well.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem there, Patrick. I hope you have a great night there, bud.
All right.
All right. Bye. All right. Awesome. That was a great call. So just to remind everybody, we are going to be reading out any super chats that are $5 or more. So definitely get your super chats in if you want to hear us interact with your thoughts and opinions there. That would be great. We do have John that called back in. He's the theist from New York. Hey there, John. How you doing?
Hello.
Hi.
Hello?
Yay! We can hear you.
All right. You can hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So I understand there's a lag. Okay. So as I was saying before, now in continuance, I wanted to make a rational case for God. Keep in mind, this argument is an argument in process. Keep saying it. In progress, so it's not complete. And I'm sure upon careful analysis and examination, you can find or discover or see many holes in it. But I'm giving it an attempt to see where it stands so far. Am I taking you guys as both atheists or agnostic?
Yes.
I believe we're both atheists. Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. As a qualifier, so I have a really strict audience to analyze my argument, to rate the level of my argument. But I was speaking before about physics and about how physics essentially requires a mind to create that physics. And I'm going to give an argument for this in a second. I'm trying to flesh out this argument and see if it's convincing at the very least, if not definitely proven at the very most. But that physics is a system. It's a rational system of governing material objects in the physical world. So as we know, as we've seen with human systems, such as this society we're in America, or any place of governance, any polity, P-O-L-I-T-Y, polity, or any sovereign nation, or nation period, there must be a system to govern the constituting elements of that society or that place. And these places come to be systems, and these systems we know are rationally created by minds in order to efficiently govern, because there's a need for governance for obvious reasons. I don't think I have to make a rational argument for why governance is necessary when we're dealing with a complex system such as a human society. But very clearly, that system is a system needs to govern the basic elements of that system. So physics, I would say a mind is necessary for a physics because, first of all, defining. Okay, so a definition of physics would be a system of rational, I don't say calculation, let's just say a rational scientific epistemic basis that governs, again, the dynamics and workings of physical objects. So that's a very loose definition. That's not official physics definition.
Hold on.
Hmm?
Hey, so hold on. I hate to interrupt you in the middle of your of your argument here, but again, just for me personally, any argument from physics or math is just gonna fall flat for me. And like, so you say that physics is governed by God. You need a mind, a sentient mind, in order to manage a complex system. Like we have human managed complex systems. The universe is a complex system, therefore it requires a mind. Am I encapsulating kind of what this first part of your argument is?
For the most part, yes. I admit I haven't given a proof of why that's the case, because it can be argued that.
Okay, I understand that. So I understand that. Let me finish my thought here. So, for one thing, it's a false analogy fallacy here, because you're not actually, like, you can't compare human designed systems to natural systems and how they work. I'll give you a good, for instance, the gravity, like the theory of gravity, the law of gravity, all of that. Gravity is created when mass displaces space-time, and it creates sort of like this dip in space-time. That's the effect that matter has on space-time. And so gravity is this fictitious force that is created by this displacement of space-time. And so using this as an understanding, can you please point out the magic that comes into play with gravity? Like because that's what I hear you making the case for, is that, well, this physics in general requires magic in order to operate. And I'm using magic to refer to any force outside of the universe that would suspend the normal operation of reality in order to operate, which I feel like is what you would have to believe in if God is responsible for natural things to occur. You would need some kind of force to make things operate in a certain way in reality. So with our understanding of gravity, which I know is a very surface level, probably a really bad explanation of basic gravity, but where is the magic in that? Or we could go to something simpler if you wanted to, like the rain. I don't see any kind of need for God in the rain cycle. We used to think God was needed for the rain cycle, but that's when we would all get naked and dance around and then hope that it rained later. But we don't need God for that. We don't need God for rain to happen. We don't need God for gravity to be felt, you know? So where is God in those particular natural systems?
Okay, I understand. I would address that in a second if I can. Question: what's the fallacy you said I made? Because I'm studying these fallacies. So please, what's the name of it so I can research it further?
I believe it's a false analogy fallacy. You're trying to compare two things that are different. They're too different to be compared in the way that you're trying to compare them.
Yes, and I would agree that you definitely called me out correctly and named it. I would agree that would be a false analogy fallacy, but I was trying to use that as a segue to say, okay, so first about magic, okay. So I understand your understanding of God to mean someone who just mystically, as you put it, magically, for lack of a better word, just sort of affects natural systems and therefore it's something that's beyond scientific or even philosophical explanation. It's something that, you know, a lot of theists, and perhaps you think I'm doing so as well, is just positing as to say, oh, you know, because these things are complex, therefore they require a being just to somehow, unbeknownst, inexplicably, and therefore you can substitute that to say, or equivalently to say magically affect this thing. I'm not positing that statement or hypothesis, for lack of a better word. I'm saying, okay, so first of all, okay, what I mean by a God is necessary is, at least according to my calculations, is that ultimately when we see a system such as physics, it's governed by very simple laws. So there's certain properties of mind. I guess I don't want to go back to the philosophy of mind, but there's certain properties of mind that we know that when we see these things, it's highly likely or definitive that a mind has to be present and operative in order to create these things. For example, I know this is putting me in a race with results. I'm aware of Paley's watchmaker argument and how we see complex things. People can say a God created, and that's a fallacy, definitely. But what I would say is that there's certain indicative signs. For example, when something is very simple, the term wisdom, something is almost like saying the universe is wise in the sense that, let's take a physics like, a mechanics. You take a block.
Can I say something?
Yes, please do, sure. Rebecca.
I'd like to address the physics thing. So I am autistic, and physics was one of those things that I just knew the answer. Like I could just answer physics questions. I didn't even have to be taught it. Strangely, it was very odd. But because, I view things in pictures. I have to translate everything through pictures, and so physics was super easy for me. But because of that, I have kind of like the ability to picture the whole of physics, right? Where we have the universe expanding, and it came from this point. But I spend a lot of time focused on what is outside of our universe, right? Because were we a point in the middle of nothing? What are we expanding into? I don't have answers for those questions. And so for me, whenever I have that, and, let's talk about the theory that it expands and contracts and expands and contracts. Is it the same rules every time? Because it would be hard for me to believe that, but, I have no way of looking into it. But the idea that there could be more than one universe, and that it having other rules than the ones that we have here, and the constants being just slightly different than it is here or whatever, is a question that isn't answered. And so for me, yes, here there are certain properties where things are related or inversely related. And, if you go this way, then it goes that way, right? Or whatever. But I don't see how somebody had to be involved. There's nobody involved with my wall or whatever, you know what I mean? It's stuff, like the object is there, but I don't need to see that as somebody came up with it, that's a hard sell.
Okay, is that, okay, I see what you're saying. Again, this is the main, of course, rift, if you will, the great schism between theists, atheists, and agnostics, in the sense that, I'm trying to lay down the criteria that would be necessary to say intelligence was involved in something. So this I'm trying to set the axioms for this statement and then see if you guys agree with it. But I see what you're saying. It took me a while to come to the realization and the perception that indeed a mind was behind these intelligent systems like the sciences and even philosophy, even how we're moral creatures. And I understand morality. I don't want to create a fallacy there and saying just because we're moral, therefore God exists. I'm definitely not saying that. I'm saying when one takes time to meditate and really cogitate on these things, one starts to perceive a mind behind it, a wisdom. And wisdom, as well as knowledge, can only come from a mind. But that's to say that knowledge is involved in the Christian universe. I'm going to get back to my point with the block, and then I'm going to address the question about someone having to be present to make the universe the way it is. Me perceiving a mind behind it to say, back to the vignette or the example with the block. The steel block, let's say, is on I don't want to say frictionless plane, but it's on a plane, like a regular floor. Like I say marble, I don't know exactly material. Let's say wooden floor, for instance. So it has a certain coefficient of friction, like this, physics, basic college physics or basic high school physics. It has a coefficient of friction, that works opposite in the way you would move the block. And if you move it forward, the force friction moves backward. If you move it backward, the force friction moves forward. Due to the molecules, they don't really touch, but scraping against each other. So be it in that way. And then there's gravity, and then the normal force. So gravity works down, the normal force works up. Okay, so these simple, the ways in which this system was created, it works with very simple, rational principles. I would have to say the universe appears definitely to be rational when we study it, and it's intelligible. It can be figured out with intelligence, and the systems in which govern the objects are very simple rules that appear, that work together in such a harmony that one can perceive a mind behind that. That the way in which it's, the rules in which make it up, these rules which were, I don't want to say the term design. I haven't proven that these rules are designed yet.
Gotcha.
I'm definitely...
John, sorry. I'm stuck on John. Yeah. Sorry, I was stuck on the last caller's name. John. So I feel like what you're essentially arguing here is that from a very you're just presuming that God, presuppositionalism. You're just presupposing that God is necessary for this system. I mean, that's what I'm getting out of your explanation here, is that like the physics that govern a block scooting across a wood floor needs to have a mind behind it. That's what I'm getting out of it, right?
No, definitely not. Not the way you're explaining it. In the sense that I actually perceive an intelligence behind it. And I can tell you that I know.
Can I see if I caught what you're saying? Okay, so this is my best ability to parse what you're saying here, is that to have complex rules, you believe that there is required to be some conscious being that had to create rules, instead of it being just a scientific, mass, items. They exist without like the wall being involved with, it sounds like a huge jump, right? Like, where are you coming up with it from? Why would I can't parse the jump, but I do think what you're saying is, like, you think because there are rules that we can see, that you can't imagine it being without conscious being involved. Is that correct?
Well, not quite, but I can understand why you came to that supposition. What I'm saying is, and I know I'm not saying perfectly, I'm not saying with complete knowledge yet. It's like Aron Ra said, Aron Ra, though he's an atheist, he's one of my favorite people to listen to. He says, if you don't know it, if you can't show it, you don't know it. I see why he says that. I can say I know God exists, but I can't completely show it yet. So I'm working on the arguments. I'm doing the studies in physics. I'm doing the studies in physics and math and different things to show that God exists. It is possible for a proof. I would pray to God I can find it and demonstrate it. But as I'm working on this argument process, what I'm saying is that the rules, the way in which it's set up, the simplicity, when we see a mind, we see a mind, and I do admit the only example I have is of human design systems. But when we see something designed by an intelligence, there's certain simplicities, there's certain rules, there's certain rational ways in which we work together, there's certain ways we build for a reason, there's certain patterns, there's certain ways it all comes together harmoniously and with a certain wisdom and balance that you can perceive there's a mind behind its creation. If you meditate on the wisdom of the natural world and the ways in which the rationality and the rules are set up to work efficiently and simply. The rules are really simple at the end of the day. The physics rules are really simple. It's that they get complex in how they work together. But it's like divine. I don't know if it's divine and simple.
If I can interrupt, like, I don't find them to be all that simple. Like, anybody that's taken a physics, physics 2 maybe, and have tried to figure out those static state diagrams where you're figuring out, like, oh, this force is pushing this much on it, this force is doing this force is doing that. Even in your very basic example of a cube being pushed across a wooden floor, that is a very complex set of calculations there, and all of them have very natural explanations as to why those things are needed. Like, there's a certain amount of force that the floor exerts on the cube, and then there's the amount of friction. Like, you pointed out all of these things, but what I'm not hearing is where God is necessary for this. Because, like, if we want to move away from this particular example and think, for me, it's easier to think of the rain cycle. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Rebecca.
Well, also, it kind of sounds like maybe he's ascribing to, like, deism or the clock starter or something, because if they're like, that's what it seems like maybe the argument is like, what is it? Is that what the analogy is for the deism? Is the clock, here's all the rules, pow, shot it out there or whatever. Isn't that?
Yeah, I would say it can be described as deism. I'm not necessarily even advocating for a Christian God. I'm just advocating for an intelligent, rational mind who set the rules in motion and clearly designed the universe with a wisdom. If the universe is meditated upon and the rules deeply studied, there's a, for lack of a better word, divine wisdom behind it. There's a wisdom to nature. It's not just nature. Like a lot of people just say, okay, it's just nature. You know, these rules. They don't see a God in that sense, like, you know, a being actually waving his hand or doing some type of, as you would call it, describe magic.
Right, John. How are we defining wisdom here? Because I feel like we're maybe I have a different concept of wisdom than you do.
That's true. I'm defining wisdom as and I admit the whole time I'm studying philosophy is very difficult to define wisdom. So I would try. Forgive me, because it's probably going to be a poor definition. I'm going to try to give you my definition. My definition of wisdom. I would say wisdom is something that's intelligently, and by intelligent I mean simply efficient and very pervasive in its benefit and, if you will, impact. That's sort of the best definition I can give. Like the wisdom of the block is that there are four simple forces of the block working in balance. And another thing, since the universe also shows balance, it's also, I would say, properties of the mind. Anything that's, I would say, balanced. Anything that has like a mathematical balance to it, that's not, I would say, a random thing. That's something that has to be created, I would say. But I don't have an argument to show that 100% yet, but I would say that's another thing I want to get to. Like, and if something is balanced, like, it shows balance. Okay. Like, there are equal and opposite forces, which there are balances. But I admit I don't have a full argument for you.
John, I don't know how that is exactly related to wisdom. I mean, the simplicity that we find in like mathematics and physics and everything like that, like people have crafted those particular descriptions of reality to be able to explain reality. So, I mean, if they're intelligible, if they're rational, it's because we have crafted them to be so. Right. Like, I understand that you're talking about the underlying physics of things, but I still have yet to see any kind of good argument for why God is necessary for those things. But we do have other calls to get to. And so I really appreciate you calling in there, John. Maybe next time, if I can just give a little bit of constructive criticism here, maybe come up with like a syllogism or maybe just a few points that you can hit on instead of, because I know that we didn't get to your full argument here, but I tried to give you as much leeway as I could. And I feel like there was just, it was just taking a long time to get to the end. But I do appreciate you calling in. Yeah.
I have a question before you go. Yeah, I appreciate your time. What would you rate the argument so far? I know it's not too well, but what would you rate it from 1 to 10? I was going to see where I'm doing, where I can improve. Give me a number if you can.
Like 1 being Pascal's wager and 10 being some magical argument that doesn't exist yet?
Yes, so be it.
A 2 for me.
Okay, that's fine.
I don't know. What do you think, Rebecca?
All right.
Like I said, I think that this is a deism question. I think that reading about deism would be very helpful. I would say that, yeah, you're correct that it's probably closer to Pascal's wager because we're talking about deism. And so, yeah, go read about deism and then call back, right?
Okay. Well, thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate it. Have a nice night.
Yeah, thank you, John. I hope you call in again.
Okay. All right, bye.
All right, bye. All right, awesome. Well, I feel like he was trying to definitely go the route of, well, this system seems designed, therefore it is designed, or like physics is intelligible and that requires a mind for it to be intelligible. I kind of felt like that's where he was going with it.
Yeah, and a lot of times whenever I hear somebody with this particular argument, it does feel as though it's hard for them to escape being human. Like they're trapped in the way they process things. Like, how could it be processed any other way than through this thing that I'm used to processing things through, right? Like the ability to get outside of just their like being to consider things is very difficult. and something you can work on, right? So processing things outside of only considering how humans process things.
Yeah. All right. So we do have our one atheist caller that's up next, Catherine from the USA. Hey there, Catherine. How you doing?
Great. Thanks. How are you?
Doing pretty good. So what do you want to talk about today?
I'm the only atheist. I'm sorry, what?
Yeah. I was just saying that you're the only atheist to actually call in today, it seems. Everybody else has been a theist tonight, so that's been a nice change of pace.
And a woman. And a woman. Hello, Rebecca.
Hi.
Yeah. Hi. We need to bolster the troops. I don't know, spending whatever an hour listening to men talk about theism has really kind of fried my brain. I thought the subject was whether or not theism was good for children.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It is.
I just wanted
people
to
call in with their random thoughts all the time.
talk about what my parents did as non-religious. And just kind of give them a shout out. I'm a late boomer, and my parents were, well, one still is, non-religious, and so they raised their children not religious. Us, me. And I think the way they did it was brilliant for all those years ago. They pretty much just ignored it. Hello?
They just ignored religion?
Yeah.
Hello? Yeah,
you know, honestly, I that's kind of what I do. I mean, like, we've introduced stories, or I've given very small talks about, like, here's all these different religions of the world, and here's how many there are, and here's how the population works, and here's how we treat people. You know, like, to help them navigate being in public school. But I feel like their brains are not finished developing, and it's, you know, so I try to be very careful with trying to push things in, you know, other than like storytelling.
Well, this is like 1960s. I mean, it was everywhere. There was a church on every corner, you know. So, and they were highly intellectual liberals. And so I would go to church with friends all the time. If I spent the night on a Saturday, I'd get dragged to their church the next day, and my parents just completely, they gave it about as much input as they thought was necessary. And that was none. They didn't talk bad about it. They just ignored it. And it was brilliant, because that's what children learn, is the importance that their parents put on things. You see what I'm saying?
Definitely.
Yeah.
My son, I've let him go to church too, where, you know, he gets invited and it's like up to him. Like, does he want to go? He can go.
Yeah.
Like, you know?
No, I got dragged because I'd spent the night. So you get dragged to church on Sunday if you spent the night at your friend's house. And I got to see all of them. The inside, and I liked the Catholic the best. I mean, it had the most, you know, decorations, but we never talked about it. It wasn't important.
Yeah, another thing, my my partner plays, he used to sing in choirs, and they would perform in churches. We've taken our children to watch his performances in churches, and they get to see the architecture and the stained glass and all those, interesting artistic things. And we don't sit there and say, oh, the people here, something, something, something. Like, I don't even live that way at all, right?
Yeah. So as I grew up, I then got to see behind the curtain of the largest Protestant denomination by far. We accidentally moved into a vat of Baptist church leaders. And so I've dedicated a lot of my life to, the last 5 years, to studying them. And as they make organized crime look like child's play. And it's not, I know more about Baptists than 95% of Baptists who practice it. And I don't know anything about what they believe. It's about money. They're a massive real estate empire.
I can believe that. Especially with the Catholic Church, but I hadn't heard that for the Protestant churches out there. I
call them the Protestant mafia. They are who are behind all the anti-LGBTQ laws, all the Supreme Court. They bought themselves. They have so much money. They have more money than most countries. But they've studied like Nazi Germany and have decided to go with total invisibility. They don't elect overtly SBC members of Congress because they like other people to do their dirty work for them. But their favorite is Catholics. And for some reason, Catholics do it.
Okay. I totally agree that there's a lot of shady stuff going on behind the scenes at a lot of churches, a lot of church communities and everything like that. Obviously, I guess you would know more since you say that you've been, been able to see behind the curtain or whatnot. I definitely have noticed a lot of shady stuff going on, like in religious communities in general. And I think that probably some of the people at the higher end or the upper echelons of the, community churches and stuff probably have to keep, money.
No. We got to stop talking about churches. Churches are not people. Churches are pieces of property. It's the very top tier of the religious right are mostly of Dutch descent, Americans. Some are actually Dutch. The Netherlands wasn't stupid, and they sent all their religious freaks here. And they got in through Canada between 1930 and 1960. And they will do anything. They will burn this.
Yeah.
They will burn this country to the ground to protect their assets and their tax exemption.
So, with these, with people in general who are attracted to power, you're going to have a lot of, types of personality disorders, types of psychopathology that result in somebody being like, I'm here and everyone's below me, right? To want to be even in a top tier instead of like round table situation, you're already getting to a part where you're going to have problems, right? So it doesn't shock me that the top of the Baptist would be so phenomenally dangerous, because the top of most places, like capitalism itself, right, is a danger, Will Robinson, danger like situation. So yes, it's a, yep.
Well, it's a trillion.
Also, the laws in this country were written to protect like slave owners and white people, and they haven't changed very much whatsoever. I mean, we're set up to protect the Baptist Church and their, mafia, or however you put it, right? The laws are here to specifically
everything they actually work at. They can do the Sunday crap in their sleep. Everything they actually work at is politics. And it's really just a select few families who are basically human traffickers and pimps. Because they have a $1 trillion industry with one product: females, cisgender females.
Okay.
So, and they go through, that's why they have to go through everybody to find the people who are going, who they can use.
Catherine, I feel like we're starting to venture into an area where we would really need like evidence for some of the things that you're saying.
I'll give some evidence for her, because the
Rebecca,
the umbrella.
Back me up.
Yeah, I can back you up. You know that umbrella that they're like, God is the top, then there's the man, then there's the woman, right? We belong to the man, right? And we're conditioned from birth.
When we live in Gilead.
Girl. Yeah, right. The little girl from birth is there so that she can eventually be under some man, right? And that's, again, me above, you below, man above, woman below, right? God above, man below.
Yes.
Baptist, with all the money above, slave owner, white men at the above, everybody else below, right?
Yep.
Capitalism, billionaires above, us below, right? Problem.
Well, yeah, and I totally agree about the disproportionate treatment of women in religion, and how very misogynistic and patriarchal that religious communities are, and all that kind of stuff. I guess I thought that maybe some of the broader generalized statements might have been going a little bit too far there.
The SBC is by far the biggest Protestant denomination. And they went on they plant churches. They have over 80,000 now in the United States and Canada. And in some places where they're so prominent, they just replant them because there's so many. There are 17 times more SBC churches in like Kentucky than there are McDonald's. They take everything.
I
every
hear you.
nickel that's not nailed down. And so it is definitely not good for children. They prefer to get their kids older because for baptisms, I call them wet t-shirt fetishists. They don't baptize until like
the
late
Baptists
teens.
do the whole dunking in thing. That's why it's the wet t-shirt, because they have to they're fully clothed and then they dunk them completely in.
Correct. Yeah. So, children who are brought up in this, many of their parents people like grandparents and went into it for financial reasons initially, because there are a zillion scams and things one can do, But then those kids end up becoming like super Christians because their whole lives are based on a lie. And that's the generation that's coming up now, because it's just the promise of lifetime employment, traveling the world. I mean, they have so much money, they can pay people to join. If people, they don't even know how much money they have. Nobody's keeping track.
I want to add something here because, I do feel like maybe that might have been more true in the past, but even the Pew Research Foundation has said that the nuns are now the largest group as far as religious people go. And so, as far as what's happening now, I think there's actually a pretty major cultural shift, because it used to be Christians were the dominant and, Protestants were, and then Catholics were, and now it's the nuns, then Protestants, then Catholics.
Well, the SBC just overtook the Catholic Church. That was their goal of the Christians. They are now more prominent than Catholics, and that's probably why Catholics were fine with doing their bidding.
And then the nuns, though, are higher than that. Right. And I, as far as, where things are going, who are the children now, it looks like things are still going, towards the nun situation, but you have a major point on where's the money and the billionaire argument, right? The capitalism argument. SBC is a major player in a lot of what's going on in politics.
Yeah, and I definitely think that we need to get religion out of
all the shots.
Politics. Well, I definitely think that there's a lot of significant money behind a lot of the conservative Republicans that are out there right now. But we do need to get to Super Chats, so I really appreciate you calling in tonight there, Catherine, to talk to us about some of these things.
Thank you. Big fan.
Yeah, right. Thanks for calling.
Thank you, Catherine. You have a nice night. Okay, well, that's it for calls tonight. Appreciate everybody that called in. We did have one theist caller that I was going to get to right after Catherine, but they dropped off. So, but in any case, really appreciate everybody stopping by tonight. We are going to be going to Super Chats here in a second. I'll start off tonight with Monkey at Typewriter, $5 from Monkey at Typewriter. I have no insight as to how or why the show has been plagued by technical issues recently, but I know somehow it's Jimmy's fault. # fire Jimmy Snow. Rebecca, would you be able to read this one?
Should I read it? Yeah. Yeah, $5 from Monkey at Typewriter. You got to appreciate Andrew as a perpetual reminder of the absolute brain rot caused by religion. Dude is doing more for atheism than most.
$5 from Sonic the Shroom, who says with freedom of religion should come freedom from religion. I mean, typically that's what you would expect. But a lot of conservatives now are reading that as sort of like a one-way mirror or two-way mirror or whatever, where, basically they think that freedom of religion means freedom to oppress others with your religion instead of being able to be free from religion. They say that that's not guaranteed by the First Amendment, but they're just wrong.
Yeah, they need some history lessons, huh?
Yeah, definitely.
$10 from Dade Murphy. The Bible is trash. Hail Sagan. That's Andrew's middle name. Sagan is his middle name. That's my firstborn.
Oh, okay.
Andrew Sagan. Yeah.
Nice. $5 from the Raven 200. He, him says, every time Andrew calls in, I'm more sure that my decision to leave theism was correct. Jimmy, go take a diving elbow drop from Macho Man Randy Savage. Thank you there, Raven. Andrew, he's called in before with me, and it's a nice conversation every time, but I'm never convinced by anything that he has to say.
Yeah, he's called in when I was on with Aron too.
Oh, okay.
$10 from Who's Your Buddy? Rebecca's doing great. I hope to see her on the line again. Again on the line. Thanks.
Yeah, no, I think that you've been great tonight, Rebecca. So I really appreciate you, coming on and everything on a Friday night. $5 from the Raven 200. He, him. I got karaoke with the boys tonight. Should be dope. Jimmy, go get forced to listen to my awful singing voice for 12 hours. Have a good one, baby.
$10 from Sonic Shroom. I don't understand why people think the afterlife can only exist by God existing. Isn't it just as likely that there's an afterlife without a God in it? Just as likely as lots of other unreasonable things to think.
Yeah. $5 from Tau Software. Shout out to my Globy homies. You know who you are. I think that's in the flat Earth versus globe debate, I believe, is who the Globy homies would be.
$5 from Platonic Cuddler. I'm totally for bringing back naked dancing to summon the rain. Oh, and bring back platonic cuddling. Everyone should be for platonic cuddling. I like platonic cuddling too. That's, you know what? I'm one of y'all. I'm part of this group.
I like cuddling KC. That got a smile. $5 from Johnny Rapine. GE, I love your water cycle example. Is God in every tea kettle? Have you introduced Rebecca to Brocephus yet? Go fuck yourself, Jimmy, and unfork these tech issues. So Brocephus is a character I do that's kind of a not really a conservative Christian, more of a liberal Christian, but he's it's just a little act that I do because I grew up around a lot of Christians and around a lot of rednecks. So like, that's just been my experience.
Okay. $5 from Monkey at a Typewriter. I agree with Catherine. We atheists need to up our organized crime game. Atheist Mafia, anyone? Now taking applications for management roles.
Interestingly enough, interestingly enough, over on my channel, the memberships there, I call them the Skeptic Mafia. And so that comes from somebody a long time ago was talking about how there's this mafia of atheists out there and we pay each other to like do videos on certain things. And like, there's this whole like conspiracy theory type deal about like a skeptic mafia that exists. And it was quite funny at the time. We still call ourselves the Skeptic Mafia over there.
Oh no, atheists pay content creators in their community. Like, okay.
I mean, considering how much money is given to like religious institutions every year, I feel like the little bit that is paid like in memberships on channels like The Line here is shouldn't really raise any kind of eyebrows. But anyways, we had a lot of great calls tonight, and I was really excited to be able to talk to a lot of theists. That's one thing that when I'm on, I get a lot of atheists, but we had mostly theists tonight. So I really appreciate you coming on, Rebecca. Do you want to tell everybody about your new book and where they can find you out there in the social media verse?
Sure. So my new book is Eliza Diaz Universes. Like I said, it's about a little girl. She likes to play pretend. She likes to pretend she's a universe creating pixie, create some different universes. It's a swirl of a book and a lot of fun. And then you can find me under my name, Rebecca Vitsmun. My last name spelled Vitsmun, all over the place. I'm, Instagram, and I'm on TikTok. I'm on, like Facebook and Pinterest. I'm all over the place. You can just Google me, find a bunch of different places that I'm at. And thanks for having me on, John. Well, had a good time.
Oh, no. Yeah, no, thank you for coming on, being flexible enough to come on a Friday. And, I guess we're going to be going to the outro now, which I've got a little outro thing. I want to say thank you to our producer, Morgan, obviously. And then we've also got our moderators in the chat, and then we had the person that was doing the screening, the call screener. Thank you so much. I don't have the list exactly right now in front of me for who was doing the call screening and everything like that. But I really do appreciate everybody.
It was Dragan doing the call screening, and Kalasia 789 for mod.
Okay, so Dragan was doing the call moderation, the call screener, and then Kalasia in the chat that was doing all the great moderation there. So just thank you everybody for joining up tonight, watching, listening to all the calls and everything like that. And I guess we'll see everybody next week on the line. Well, Sunday, which is next week. Kind of those are the patron people. Producers and I was pointing the wrong way. The patron producers and everybody like that. Everybody go and go to patreon.com, call the line, and you'll be able to become a patron. So